Bienvenidos a En el Radar de ADN Noticias. Estamos dándole seguimiento, como siempre, pues tocamos los temas que están en la palestra. Le estamos dando seguimiento a este cuerpo celeste, si se le puede llamar así, u objeto interestelar, el 3I Atlas, que sigue dando de qué hablar y que fue descubierto este 1 de julio de 2025. ¿Por qué llama tanto la atención este objeto? ¿Qué preocupación ha despertado en la comunidad científica? Para conversar sobre ese tema, recibo en este espacio al doctor A.B. Loeb. Él es former member of Council Advisors of Science and Technology, former chair at the Board of Physics and Astronomy of the National Academies. He's testified in front of Congress asking them to release classified information about unidentified flying objects and other related issues. He has held the Frank B. Baird Junior Chair in Science at Harvard University since July the 1st, 2012. He has also served as the director of Harvard's Department of Astronomy since 2011. Bienvenido, Dr. A.B. Loeb. Welcome, Dr. A.B. Loeb.
Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure.
It's an honor for us to have you here. We have seen in the past 8 years the discovery of three interstellar objects, if we can call them like that. The Oumuamua, it was the first one in 2017. It was discovered using the Pan-STARRS telescope in the Haleakala Observatory in Hawaii. And then we had 2 years later, just 2 years later, we had the Borisov, that this one was cataloged as a comet, actually. It had a tail, and it had a nucleus estimated to be from 0.4 to 0.5 kilometers of diameter. But now there is a big discovery that has actually concerned many scientists, including you, which is a 3I Atlas, and you consider this could be an alien technology. Can you talk to me about it?
Yeah, this new object was discovered on July 1st, 2025, and it was relatively bright, discovered by half-a-meter-sized telescope in Chile called Atlas, and it looked as if the object is big on the scale of Manhattan Island, of all the 10 kilometers to up to 46 kilometers in diameter. Wow. We do not yet have good knowledge of its size. Hopefully, we will know in the coming months. But the size was surprising. The minimum size is actually of the order of 5 kilometers. It's obtained from the fact that we haven't seen any deviation of the trajectory of the object from a path that was sculpted by gravity. But we do see that the object evaporates. There is a jet of brightness emanating from it towards the sun, not away from the sun, the way we see for cometary tails that are made of dust and therefore are pushed away from the sun by radiation pressure. In this case, there was a jet during July and August. It was imaged by the Hubble Space Telescope towards the sun. And from the mass loss evaluated for this loss of material from the object, there should have been some recoil, unless it's extremely massive. And I calculated that it should be at least 33 billion tons in mass, which is 1,000 times more than the Borisov comet that you mentioned, the previous interstellar object, or 1,000,000 times more massive than Oumuamua, the first interstellar object. And that is very surprising, because we should have seen thousands to millions of objects much smaller than this one before we saw this one. But in fact, it's the third. And also, there is not enough mass in rocky material in interstellar space to deliver such a giant object to our neighborhood over the past decade. So the question is it really a rock? And it turns out that this object is following a path that is aligned with the plane of the planets around the sun to within 5 degrees. And the chance of that happening at random is 1 in 500. So the question is, was this path designed, fine-tuned by some intelligence? And moreover, we find in the plume of gas around it, we find nickel without iron, which is very surprising. And the object itself is coming very close to Mars. It did that on October 3rd, just a week ago, and it will come very close to Jupiter on March 16th, 2026. And the chance of that happening at random is 1 in 20,000, because it requires very special timing for the object to be at the right time at the right place, so that it comes close to one of these planets that is orbiting the sun over a period of other years. So altogether, there are many anomalies of this object. There is also a negative polarization of the light coming from it. And I suggested to keep in mind the possibility that it might be technological, because even though it could be a black swan event that we give a very low probability for, it could have huge implications for the future of humanity. So we should collect as much data as possible about it. And another anomaly that I should mention is the object arrived from a direction that coincides with a powerful radio signal that was discovered in 1977. It's called the WOW signal, that definitely was extraterrestrial. We don't know where it came from, and the direction of arrival of that signal coincides to within 9 degrees with the arrival direction of 3I Atlas, and the chance of that happening at random is 0.6%. So my recommendation to the United Nations, to the International Astronomy Union, is in the future, we should examine each and every interstellar object to make sure that it's not a threat to humanity. And I define the scale where 0 implies a natural object and 10 implies a technological object. So far, I give 3 to 4, a rank of 3 to 4 to 3I Atlas. This is called the Loeb scale in 2 published papers so far.
You've asked Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna. I wanted to ask you this: if you ask her to send a letter to NASA to request the agency to study the feasibility to use Juno in order to get more information about this interstellar object, which is 3I Atlas. Did you talk to her? What happened? Because you said it was going to get close to Mars around the 2nd of October or the 3rd. And the other question is, apparently, and I want to confirm this with you, surprisingly, NASA has shut down somehow the viewing of this object to the public, and also information related to 3I Atlas. Also, the European Space Agency. What's happening, and and if you have information of this data that could be gathered by Juno with NASA, if it did happen?
Yes, Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna called me on the phone and asked for an update about 3I Atlas. And I mentioned the opportunity that NASA has to observe it, both when it passes close to Mars. It did that already on October 2nd, as you said. And there is a camera called HiRISE on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter that could achieve a resolution of 30 kilometers per pixel, which would allow us to figure out the actual size of the object from the brightest pixel in the image. And also, when it is supposed to come close to Jupiter on March 16th, 2026, there is the Juno spacecraft near Jupiter that could study it. And in fact, yesterday I met with the principal investigator of Juno, and he told me that they would be glad to also use a radio antenna that they have to check if there is any radio transmission from this object, which is a very good idea, given that the WOW signal that was in the radio came from a similar direction in the sky as 3I Atlas came from. And so very graciously, Representative Luna wrote a letter to the head of NASA, the interim NASA administrator, Sean Duffy, and requested that NASA will follow on that. And as far as I know, the hope is that indeed Juno will be used for that purpose. Now, with respect to the HiRISE image, as far as I know, it was taken on October 2nd, and perhaps multiple images of high resolution. But on October 1st, there was a government shutdown. and all communications from NASA stopped at that point. So some people said, well, maybe that's a conspiracy. They have some information they don't want us to know. Maybe it represents extraterrestrial intelligence. And I replied that most likely it represents terrestrial stupidity.
But did you manage to get information about what Juno gathered on the 2nd of October when you had this meeting?
Yeah, I actually sent a request to the principal investigator of High Rise to ask for any data they have, and I haven't heard back yet. And of course, if such data is provided, I will analyze it and try to figure out the implications, because it would be the highest resolution image we have. Before that, the Hubble Space Telescope looked at this object, and as I mentioned, there was an anti-tail, something that was never seen for a comet that usually has a tail. So it's like imagining an animal coming to your backyard, and the observers see a tail and they say it must be a street cat because they are very common. And I say, look, but the tail is coming out of its head, not out of its rear end. And moreover, this animal is 1,000 to 1,000,000 times bigger than a typical street cat, and it sheds very strange materials out of it, and it comes close to some assets we have in our backyard. So we should keep in mind the possibility that it's not a street cat.
It's actually concerning, this what you're talking about, because it could be alien nature, this object that we do not know what it is at the moment. You have no access to the information gathered on the 3rd of October, and the clock is ticking. You reckon in few interviews you made before that we should have an international organization taking care of these interstellar objects, no? Also to protect humanity. You also mention it now that we should protect humanity. We have big threats. AI is one of the big threats. Also, global warming is a big threat. And now you're talking about this alien technology that could actually visit us, pass by. We don't know what may happen. Does the leaders around the world have heard you? Have someone approached you in order to do this?
Well, in an interview that I had with Newsmax, I was informed that they also spoke with people in the White House, and so I assume that the White House knows about it. And my point of view is that there wouldn't be any attention from high-level politicians until we have definitely a clear signature of a technological object from an extraterrestrial civilization. So that may take time, and the first encounter we would not be prepared for. But after that, I think everything will change, because it would imply that there is a potential threat from the sky that we should respond to. And before that, we basically need to monitor the sky. We are doing that for the southern sky with the Rubin Observatory in Chile that was inaugurated in June 2025. And we need to build a second observatory that would monitor the northern sky at a cost of order $1 billion. That's a relatively modest cost compared to the $2.4 trillion that we spend worldwide on military budgets. If there will be a potential threat from that is clear because we identify a technological gadget flying across the sky from another civilization, then we would probably invest at the level of $1 trillion a year on space exploration, on an alert system that would notify Earthlings of anything that comes our way from outside the solar system. So I do see that as something to think about for the future. In the intelligence agencies, it's well known that you have to plan for a black swan event, an event that has a low probability of coming to fruition in reality, but has a huge impact on our future. And so we definitely need to be prepared for that. And we need to establish an organization, a committee that includes scientists that coordinate data collection from all possible assets that we have, ground-based observatories, space-based observatories, and then based on the data, deciding whether the anomalies require a ranking closer to 10 on the Loeb scale. That might be an issue for policymakers to think about and decide how to proceed.
And as you mentioned, we have to be prepared. I mean, when you see there might be 6,000 million planets in just one galaxy, which is the Milky Way. When you see there must be around 100,000 million galaxies in this universe, it's quite probable that we are not alone.
Yes.
And also, you reckon that the government has in its possession more than a dozen spacecraft that they retrieve from crash places. And you also reckon they have the budget for security is $1 trillion in 2026. And also the head of national security admits that he doesn't even know what is flying in our skies, you know? Right. So it's quite concerning that we are living this situation at the moment and we're not prepared, like you said, for an event that could be really less likely, and the probability would be like really low, but still it could happen, especially after we see the 3I Atlas.
Yeah, we need a dose of cosmic modesty. When Enrico Fermi asked in 1950, where is everybody? He was referring to extraterrestrials. What I would tell him is, don't be so presumptuous. You need to develop telescopes, observatories that monitor the sky for interstellar objects that might be of technological origin. He didn't do that. He just asked the question. And of course, you need to seek the evidence in order to find the traces of alien technological objects. And when Elon Musk said more recently, just last year, we are probably alone, I think that was pretty arrogant, because over the past 10 billion years, surely there was a more accomplished space entrepreneur than Elon Musk in the Milky Way galaxy. And the way for us to find that is to look for the evidence. That's the scientific method, without convincing ourselves that we are at the top of the food chain. I don't think so. There are, as you said, billions of Earth-Sun analogs that could have led to similar circumstances to those that we had on Earth. And there might be far more accomplished scientists on exoplanets around other stars that actually develop science and technology to much higher levels than we have right now on Earth, based on the last century. And as a result, we should check how much traffic of technological objects there is in the solar system from outside the visitors. And perhaps if we find the evidence for that, it will inspire us to change our priorities and to invest much more in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, as well as develop our own plans for space explorations in interstellar space. My colleagues in academia right now, astrobiologists, are obsessed with the search for microbes. They are willing to put billions of dollars into future observatories that will search for microbes on other planets. And I say, intelligence is far more inspiring if we can find it. It may be easier because intelligence produces gadgets that could travel a long distance and bridge the gap between other stars and us. And they already traveled for millions to billions of years. And if we just look at our backyard, we might find objects from far away that were sent long ago, that even if they are rocks, they may have the building blocks of life around other stars. Or if they happen to be technological, we could be inspired to develop new technologies that we don't possess at the moment.
I know you don't have enough time, but I just want to just close this conversation with 2 points. One is, are you going to be able to meet with NASA scientists and gather this information, have this meeting with with lawmakers. And the other one is if you could kindly talk to us about that night that Stephen Hawking was in your house.
Yeah, I would love to help government figure out what any data they have means in the context of what lies outside the solar system. Government is mostly focused on national security concerns, but anything coming from outside the solar system is an international security issue because all humans are in the same boat and we should cooperate on our understanding of potential threats from space. With respect to Stephen Hawking, he came to visit my home in 2016 because back then we inaugurated the Black Hole Initiative, for which I served as the founding director. And it was during Passover night, we hosted him. That was his first Passover dinner. He enjoyed very much the food that my wife prepared and gave a speech and very much in line with the kind of research I'm doing now. He was talking about extraterrestrials and the fact that we could travel to the stars, and that would be very inspiring. And I found Stephen to be humble and inspirational. And he represents, in my mind, the best that the human spirit can offer because his body was not able to move. He couldn't move a muscle except for his eyebrows and his cheeks. And nevertheless, he looked very human to me. So I call that the Hawking limit, where the human spirit is evident even if you have no physical abilities. And of course, now it becomes very relevant because AI systems are imitating humans. And even without them having any access to the physical reality, they might show features of the human spirit in that Hawking limit. And so altogether, meeting Stephen Hawking was extremely inspirational. And I think he would have been very excited about the new frontier of interstellar objects that we are pioneering now.
Dr. Loeb, it's been a really pleasure and an honor to talk to you today.
Thanks for having me. It was a real pleasure and honor for me as well.
Thank you so much. A todos ustedes, muchísimas gracias por haber estado aquí en el radar de ADN Noticias.